Plan was to only notify Rob. Okay.
Start whenever you're ready.
We are ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Governor Reynolds, Lieutenant Governor Gregg, Dave, Ryan, staff. My name is Ben Hammis, and I'm here today representing the Master Builders of Iowa, the state's recognized leader of the construction industry. We're an association of over 400 builders that perform the majority of the state's commercial, industrial, and public works building projects. I'm here today to ask for your consideration to include vital funding for the renovation and expansion of the University of Northern Iowa's ITC Center project in your budget this year. More specifically, we're requesting $2.2 million be included in your budget to begin the design phase of the project. Overall, the project will be approximately $42 million over 3 years. Of that $42 million, UNI is already committed to raising $4 million of that privately themselves. So the state's request is actually $38 million for the project. Built in 1974 to initially educate and train shop teachers, graduates look a lot different these days going through the programs. Graduates are now rewarded with careers that look like construction project managers, manufacturing supervisors, wind turbine engineers, and K through 12 STEM and CTE teachers. However, the building is programmatically obsolete and in need of improvements to provide adequate spaces for teaching and learning that support the education of these future leaders. More than $9.4 million in deferred maintenance, the building systems are beyond their useful life and cannot support the department's technology-heavy requirements. So as employers who hire directly from UNI's coveted construction management program, we depend on our partnership with UNI to supply those workforce needs. And to us, there's no program that has demonstrated its worth quite like the CM program at UNI. So let me share with you what that's looked like the past few years. In total, the ITC Center enrolls nearly 500 students in 6 program areas that include the construction management program that I talked about. And in the past 6 years, the CM program has seen a 100% placement rate upon graduation. And in total, graduates that go through the UNI ITC Center stay in Iowa 90% of the time. These are excellent career-paying fields that are in high demand. And I've personally seen friends and family both go through the program to be rewarded with an incredible career afterwards. So what does the future look like for the ITC Center? Enrollment's projected to continue increasing, and through UNI partnerships with community colleges, transfer students will be the majority of the new students entering the Department of Technology programs each and every year. To meet the state's projected workforce needs, the Department of Technology aims to increase its enrollment by 40% from 500 to 700 students by the year 2025. So as partners and strong supporters of your Future Ready Iowa initiative, MBI and our members can confidently say that renovating and expanding this building project will help us to keep up the construction industry's increasingly sophisticated workforce needs. And to sum up, we believe this project is worthy of its funding because it will directly help the state achieve its Future Ready Iowa goal while positively impacting our workforce talent pool for generations to come. So thank you very much for your time. Merry Christmas. If you have any quick questions, I'm happy to answer those. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us today. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm representing the Greater Des Moines Partnership. Some of you probably know the Greater Des Moines Partnership represents more than 6,400 business members across an 8-county area. All told, we're the 4th largest chamber of commerce in the United States. And so we have a wide footprint, not only at the state level, but the national level. As we talk to our members and as we think about where Iowa needs to go in the future, workforce development continues to come up as the #1 priority. Whether we're talking about the 4-man operation in a garage trying to create the next big technology company or a Fortune 500 company here located in downtown Des Moines, workforce continues to be the #1 issue. So we look forward to working with our partners, you all in the administration and the legislature, to fully fund the Future Ready Iowa initiative, making sure that those dollars go toward apprenticeships, programs, and other opportunities to ensure Iowans have access to those programs. As we think about the next phase in workforce development, affordable housing and workforce housing continues to be an issue as well. So we're excited to partner with the Iowa Economic Development Authority to increase the workforce housing tax credit from $20 million to $30 million. We think that is a great first step in addressing this issue and moving our state forward in a way that employers and employees can live and work within hopefully the same area. And last but not least, maybe more of a federal issue, but the administration has been extremely helpful with the Des Moines International Airport. That's been among your priorities that you submit to Congress and to the federal government. We would ask that you continue to have that in your top 5 priority list. As you know, the region continues to grow and expand in population. We're going to be at 1 million people in the next 10 or 15 years, believe it or not. And so updating the airport, getting that new terminal in is extremely important as we plan out and be strategic about our future growth. So thank you for your past support on that project. Thanks for your continued leadership, and we look forward to working with you this session. Any questions? Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Governor, Lieutenant Governor Gregg. I want to thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to address you today. I am Linda Jackett, owner of Capstone Management. We own, manage, and operate 9 skilled nursing facilities and assisted living programs throughout the state of Iowa, more than 450 Iowans across our state. Capstone is a member of the Iowa Healthcare Association, which represents nearly 800 skilled living nursing facilities and home care providers in Iowa. Our state's long-term care sector provides more than 72,000 jobs to Iowans who take home more than $2.3 billion each year in payroll to support their families. State funding impacts the industry's ability to hire and retain those workers. I want to thank you, Governor, for your past support of the long-term care and the critical care priorities to benefit Iowa's frail and elderly populations. Thanks to your leadership and the support of the legislature, we have made progress on several key issues with important measures passed in last year's legislative season, such as the reinstatement of the 3-month retroactive Medicaid coverage. We are grateful for your leadership on issues important to the care of Iowa's most vulnerable citizens. Governor, as you know, there is still a lot we need to do. 1 in every 2 Iowans receiving skilled nursing care today is on Medicaid. And today we face a historic skilled nursing Medicaid funding shortfall for this population. That shortfall amounts to $54.9 million. For every patient receiving skilled nursing care, the cost of providing that care is $13,000 more annually on average than what is covered by Medicaid. That is a total cost average of 20% that is not being covered by state government. As this coverage gap grows, access to skilled nursing care for Medicaid patients becomes more and more challenging across the entire state. Iowa skilled nursing facilities are currently being reimbursed at 2012 cost level. The basic cost of care, which includes food, medicine, and staffing today, is not the same as it was 6 years ago. Funding has not kept pace with standard inflation cost. We know how difficult the balancing of these priorities can be, and it is during these challenging times that we all need to work together. As we move forward into a year which nursing facility rates will be reviewed, we respectfully and prayerfully ask that you include a full $54.9 million in funding for Iowa skilled nursing Medicaid in your fiscal year 2020 budget. Thank you for your time and for your great service to the state of Iowa. You bet.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Weiser. I'm here on behalf of Annette Holdings and CRST International. Governor, thank you for allowing us to come in and take a look at your budget. Look how things are handling down here. We're very appreciative that you have done what you can with tight money. What we like is continuity. We don't like surprises. We like it when you take care of your responsibility, and the only real responsibility each year is balancing that budget. I wanted to pay specific attention to the Department of Transportation and their budget and their personnel. I think you know that we have great faith in that group. We've been serviced very well by the DOT. I think they're extremely customer friendly. That's very important for our businesses. My 2 businesses, Annette Holdings and CRST International, are growing very rapidly here in the state, and the state's had to make accommodations to assist us. They've done that. And I know, Governor, you've been involved in efforts on the federal level to smooth that out as well. So we appreciate your stewardship. Look forward to working with you in the next year and be open to any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor Reynolds, Lieutenant Governor Gregg. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Drew Mugler. I'm here on behalf of the Iowa Pork Producers Association. The Iowa Pork Producers Association works towards promoting, educating, and providing a leading voice for sustainable, socially responsible, and a globally competitive pork industry. Now, Iowa pig farmers continue to contribute to a robust rural economy by providing over 141,000 jobs and generating $36.7 billion in economic activity. Today, I would like to focus on two specific issues, the need for a new veterinary diagnostic lab at Iowa State University and funding for foreign animal disease preparedness. The veterinary diagnostic lab at Iowa State is the only one of its kind in the state of Iowa and provides fast, reliable results coupled with expert interpretation and consultation. The facility receives over 75,000 submissions and conducts 1.5 million diagnostic tests annually. Their caseload has doubled over the last 5 years alone, with about 75% of those tests being attributed to the swine industry. Iowa pig farmers rely on routine diagnostics by working together with practicing veterinarians to manage herd health and ensure responsible animal care. The current facility faces many challenges, including compromised biosafety and biocontainment, severe overcrowding, and outdated plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems. A new veterinary diagnostic laboratory will provide a safe environment to conduct testing, meet present space needs to provide desperately needed surge capacity, and allow development and implementation of new and emerging technologies, all while supporting competitive and growth of Iowa's agricultural economy. The Iowa Pork Producers Association has identified this project as a priority issue and has committed $1 million in producer dollars towards this facility. Now, the second issue I'd like to focus on is foreign animal disease preparedness. Foreign animal diseases have a significant impact on agriculture and the rural economy. In addition to animal illness and mortality, a foreign animal disease outbreak would immediately halt international trade and impact commodity markets, possibly for years. An outbreak would negatively affect not only Iowa's livestock industry, but related industries and the state of Iowa's tax revenue. Although Iowa is a national leader in livestock production, we lack the staff resources at the Department of Agriculture to focus on this important need, animal health. We support growing the Foreign Animal Disease Preparedness Fund to adequately facilitate the coordination that is ongoing between state, federal, and industry resources. Additional funding will allow the Department of Agriculture to grow staff expertise, update technology, ensuring rapid response communication, and continue industry education. Iowa pig farmers are particularly keeping a watchful eye on current events unfolding in regions of Asia and Eastern Europe as African swine fever, which is a debilitating foreign animal disease, is sweeping through countries like China and Romania. The Iowa Pork Producers Association has recognized this as a priority issue as well and has committed $150,000 of producer dollars over the last 2 years to the Department of Agriculture to support their efforts. We really appreciate all your support for livestock and the pork industry in the state, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Good evening, Governor Reynolds, Lieutenant Governor Gregg, Chief Copemans, and Director Roeder. Thank you for your time. My name is Mark Joyce. I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. I have two items I want to speak to, one more broadly and then one specific item. First off, Future Ready Iowa. So probably an easy one to speak to. I realize your formal budget, as I understand it, has not been formalized for your FY 2020 request, but obviously you passed the legislation last session with initial funding. I represent AT&T, Cortega AgriScience, and ITC Midwest. They all supported that legislation. They all know that attracting and retaining workers is critical for their success. So they also identify that there is no silver bullet. Got to do a multiple prong approach, which you have started with that legislation, expanding apprenticeships and internships. Love that. The IJAG joint effort for at-risk teens. My wife's a teacher. My kids are in middle school and high school. That's a great addition to that program. And then training educators through professional development, the comp sci in particular, getting down to K through 5. A lot of times we're dealing with immediate needs, and obviously the younger grade, we need all the help we can get there to get that group ready to move. Secondly, public safety I know they had their public budget presentation, I think yesterday. There's an item in there. So on behalf of the State Patrol Supervisors Association, the aircraft RIF budget request, it's not general fund request, it's a RIF request. They tell me they are retiring 2 aircraft. It's an expensive item. There's no doubt about it. But we wanted you to know that I'll be working on that. We look forward to seeing what you propose. As I understand it, half that cost is the plane, half that cost is the actual technology, the infrared technology, where they can go out and look for, on one hand, bad guys, but on the other hand, seniors, or if a child goes missing. So I'll be working that on behalf of the State Patrol Supervisors. So any questions for me? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Lucy Norton, and I'm with the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, and so it's a pleasure to be here with you. Whether it's testifying at an EPA hearing in Ypsilanti, Michigan, or leading a multi-governor letter to President Trump, or the numerous phone calls to the president to keep pressure on the RFS, keeping that moving forward, and year-round E15. Your passion and advocacy and diligence to keep biofuels strong and growing has made a huge difference. So we think that the pressure to achieve year-round E15 ultimately led the president to choosing Iowa to make that announcement. So on behalf of the entire biofuels industry, thank you for your relentless persistence in getting us further down the road with biofuels. So we've got an excellent model for growing our ethanol and biodiesel industries, and that's in the Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Cost Share Grant Program. And it's a big reason why we are seeing biofuels continue to grow in the state. Biodiesel use is growing. E15 is growing. We didn't have a single E15 station in 2012. Now we've got 168. So we're still leading the nation in ethanol and biodiesel production. And over the last 2 years, the biofuels producers have invested in adding 600 million gallons of new production. So we're proud of this progress, but we all know we've got a lot of corn stalks out there. We've got trade policies and tariffs that are keeping us under this curtain of uncertainty. So that's why we need to continue to look for new demand. So as you're setting your budget priorities for fiscal year 2020, we respectfully request your continued support for the Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Program. This program is achieving its intended goals to expand the availability of lower cost, high performance, cleaner burning renewable fuels to expand consumer choice. This has been a success story. It's accelerated the expansion and given consumers access to higher biofuels blends. So last year, the funding came out of the RIF budget, and we appreciate your support for that and keeping it growing. We have seen since 2006, there's been $31 million in cost share grants awarded to 750 projects. And what that's generated is leveraged $5 million in additional federal matching funds and about $140 million in private investments, or a 4-to-1 return. So, and for the past 2 years, the funds have all been spent. In fact, last year, everything was exhausted by the third quarter. So we didn't have a fourth quarter of review of grants. So we anticipate this is going to continue. And especially if we get E15 on a year-round basis, there are going to be more retailers moving forward and applying as well. So we are requesting a $3 million in annual funding, as we've had for the past several years, for the Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Program. So thank you all for being champions for us when it comes to renewable fuels, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor Reynolds, Lieutenant Governor Gregg, and gentlemen. My name is Susan Cameron Damon, and I'm here today on behalf of the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association. We want to start by saying thank you, Governor Reynolds, for your leadership in beginning to address Iowa's lack of access to mental health services earlier this year. Your efforts to be a champion for those seeking these important services helped pave the way for the bipartisan passage of House File 2456, which implements the recommendations of the Mental Health Complex Needs Work Group. It was a historic day when you signed that bill into law in March. But as you know, we are just getting started. While House File 2456 provides the framework of services needed for adults, such as emergency access, intermediate services, and community-based services, Iowa's mental health regions must establish and provide those services. The regional caps that were placed on mental health and disability services do not allow for current growth within the system. They do not provide the necessary resources to establish new or to sustain complex needs services, and they do not adequately fund the children's mental health services that are being proposed. Further, carry forward balance restrictions, mandatory spend downs of 20% or 25%, depending on the size of the region, likely will result in property tax swings from year to year to meet and fund the required services. If mental health services are not available because they are not adequately funded, property taxpayers will continue to cover the costs through rising jail costs and deputy overtime, transporting individuals who are being involuntarily committed across the state. Providers will not be able to provide services if they are not adequately reimbursed. Therefore, the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association supports looking at every proposal to find the funds available for these services. They would like the legislature and the governor to consider eliminating the mental health disability services levy cap, to consider removing the carry forward balance restrictions, to ensure that the mental health disability service provider rates are being properly reimbursed in a timely manner for the Medicaid eligible recipients. And we ask you just to look at and consider whatever other sources might be there so that we can fund what was passed last year for the complex needs recommendations. As I mentioned, jail medical costs being driven both by mental health needs and greater demands by inmates for physical medical services. You've heard of 3 hots and a cot, right? Well, now they know they get their medical care taken care of too. Are increasing. Local taxpayers are covering these costs. For example, the annual budgets for medical costs in the following counties for 2017, Black Hawk County was $1.28 million. Polk County was just under $5 million. Lynn County was $375,000. Woodbury County was $928,000. And I missed one. Jasper County was $110,000. I tried to give you a snapshot of some different size counties. These are just a few of the examples to show you how the taxpayers are carrying this burden, and we have to all work together at the local level and the state level to reduce these costs by making sure that we get people the services that they need on the front end, so we're not paying it on the back end. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share this information today. Thank you for your continued leadership on improving access to mental health services for Iowans. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Steinman. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa Chamber Alliance. We're the 16 largest chamber and economic development organizations across the state of Iowa. We're going to be unveiling our policy agenda in detail tomorrow, but I'll give you a preview of a few things as they relate to your budget. And I'm pleased that the first three, at least, are items that we've worked with all four of you at different times to develop, but we want to capitalize on the achievements so far and go a little further. First off, as you've heard from a couple others today, the Future Ready Iowa initiative that we're very pleased got passed into law last year. We'd like to see full funding for that program. We need to make sure that we not just have the right policies in place, but we're able to provide the scholarships and otherwise be able to administer the program as it was intended. And so we'll be strong advocates for that. I also wanted to touch briefly on economic development. We're hopeful that we can continue to see strong funding for economic development incentives. We always have work to do. There are some clouds on the horizon for the national economy, and we don't yet know how that's going to play here in Iowa. So we want to make sure that we're prepared, and we want to make sure that we can take advantage of every opportunity while we have those opportunities. Furthermore, we want to make sure that the discussion around economic development-oriented tax credits takes place at the assigned venue, which would be after this legislative session and an interim review as part of the tax reforms of last year. We think that that's the right way to do that. We are hopeful that that will be a comprehensive review of all tax credits. We welcome the discussion on that, but we want to make sure that the legislative session doesn't throw us any surprises in terms of what we have available to us for helping to create jobs. I would also say that building upon the tax reform from last year, which we greatly appreciate your endeavors on, we made some really good structural changes, and we were very pleased that the corporate tax code was affected in that. And so getting rid of federal deductibility and collapsing rates are all very positive. We do still have some work to do with respect to our rates on the corporate side. And so we're pleased we have transparency, but we still have a ways to go. There are only a couple states, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, that actually have higher top rates than Iowa. We want to make sure we can march that down, and we have some ideas on how we could go about that in a fiscally responsible way. We're also hearing more from our members about concern with property taxes, and that the reforms of 2013 are no longer being felt through increased assessments. And we'd like to have a discussion about how we can continue the discussion on property taxes. It's a particularly difficult issue. It's 40 years in the making, and we still have work to do on that front in order to make Iowa as competitive as it can be in a business climate. And then finally, is not so much an appropriation issue, but an issue that we'd like to put on your radar, and that's around infrastructure. One of the major items that's being discussed in Washington, D.C. right now is the potential for infrastructure reform that could take place in a divided government. I was not currently positioned to be able to compete and receive those federal dollars by way of our procurement laws. And we need to take a look at that to make sure that we're ready, that if the feds act, that we're not in a scramble next year, but we've positioned ourselves to be able to make sure that we get our taxpayers' fair share with respect to infrastructure, particularly vertical infrastructure. So I'll leave you with that, but thank you very much for your efforts and look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Director Roeder, and Chief Copeman. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Jessica Hyland, and I'm Director of Public Policy for ABI, and I'm here on behalf of our members. We have 1,500 member companies who employ over 330,000 Iowans. We wanted to thank you for your leadership first. We truly appreciate your tireless commitment to the people of Iowa and your tremendous efforts to make this state a better place to live and work. And as you look to develop your budget for next year, we hope you will consider continued emphasis on workforce. The biggest issue we hear from our members is that they need not only more workers, but workers with the right skills. Whether it be urban or rural, we need to get our existing workforce trained and our future workers educated for the jobs of tomorrow. We look forward to working with you on your Empower Rural Iowa initiative. I got to attend a meeting, one of the meetings with the Lieutenant Governor, and we look forward to working on the efforts surrounding workforce housing and broadband in particular. I think those are of a lot of interest to us from our priority perspective. And to continue to work to implement your administration's Future Ready Iowa initiative that a lot of people have mentioned today, with reaching the goal of 70% of Iowans with post-secondary training by 2025. We were pleased with the unanimous legislative support last session for that, and we're hoping that that will be fully funded this year. In particular, your Employer Innovation Fund that will allow businesses, schools, and organizations to come together for solutions that fit their industries and regional workforce. And as you know, we work with many of your executive branch departments. I was actually over at Revenue today. We're watching very closely how the tax changes last year are going to be implemented. We want those to be fair and clear. And so we're working on that. We've been speaking with IWD regarding the unemployment trust fund and some policies surrounding that as well. And in addition, ABI members frequently interact with DNR as well. They want to comply with the law and to make certain that their air construction permits are issued in a timely manner. However, industry should not be unfairly burdened when it comes to funding DNR, in particular with that Air Bureau. It's funded fully by fees, almost fully funded by fees from our membership. And we look forward to continuing to work together to find efficiencies that make sense for DNR and industry while ensuring Iowa's air quality is protected. We're also paying close attention to the implementation of Senate File 512, the water quality landmark legislation that was passed that you were a leader on as well. We actually have industry members that are named in the nutrient reduction strategy as well, and so they could be a part of some of those projects, those watershed projects. We thank you again for the time and opportunity to comment on what is important to ABI as you craft your budget, and we look forward to working with you toward a productive 2019 session. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Go. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Steinfeld with the Iowa Farm Bureau Federation. We are the largest statewide grassroots farm organization in Iowa. As the 2019 legislative session approaches, Farm Bureau members recognize the importance of crafting a budget that funds the state's priorities. We would like to thank Governor Reynolds for her leadership during last year's budget process, which included several items important to agriculture and rural Iowa. Last year's budget included historic water quality legislation, which will provide long-term dedicated state funding to enhance farmers' own investments in water quality and soil conservation, and to continue to advance Iowa's science-based nutrient reduction strategy. As this increased funding ramps up over the next few years, we are asking that the current programs, such as a conservation cost share program and our current water quality initiative appropriations, remain funded at their current levels, ensuring that the new dedicated funding will be additive to our existing water quality and soil conservation programs. Last year, the governor also signed into law a tax bill that included coupling with Section 179 asset expensing and the qualified business income deduction. These provisions are important for Iowa's farmers and small business owners, and these important tax policies will have a positive impact on Iowa's economy as they are accounted for in the upcoming budget figures. During the upcoming session, one of the budget items that Farm Bureau members will be working on is the beginning farmer tax credit. This program has increased in popularity over the years, and it should function in a manner that is most beneficial to Iowa's beginning farmers. To help achieve this goal, our members are asking that the current dollar cap be administered in a sustainable and viable way that ensures the current bottleneck of demand is addressed next year and into future years. The Beginning Farmer Tax Credit Program is a valuable tool that utilizes both the cash rent and crop share lease options to help encourage landowners to rent their land to beginning farmers. Additionally, Farm Bureau members support a state budget that does not increase the burden on Iowa's property taxpayers. We support a state budget that funds both the homestead property tax credit and the ag land family farm property tax credit at levels equal to or exceeding the previous year's levels. And we also support a state budget that does not shift any of the state's obligations directly onto the backs of property taxpayers. We would like to thank the governor for protecting Iowa's property taxpayers through last year's budgeting process, and we are hopeful these protections will continue into the 2019 budget. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Governor Reynolds, Lieutenant Governor Gregg, Director Roeder, Ryan. I'm Matt Adey, and I'm here on behalf of Poet Ethanol. And first want to thank you, Governor, for your leadership on ethanol issues on a national level. It's second to none. You're a true champion, and the industry and Poet, I know, is lucky to have you as a strong advocate. I'm here in support of a program at IDALS called the Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Program, or the RFIP. This is a $3 million request to fund the program. It'd be a continuation at the current funding level. And this, as you know, is a cost share to afford retailers and fueling stations the ability to update and transform their equipment to utilize the E15. And it's going great guns, and we're making huge accomplishments. And this is a program that across the country states are jealous of and are trying to implement. And it's typically an oversubscribed program, and it's proven that it works. And if we want to continue as the #1 ethanol producer and E15 distributor, we need this program. So I highly recommend the support from the administration. Thanks for your past support. Any questions? Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. I'm Emily Piper. I'm actually here today representing Rathlin Regional Water Association, which may have surprised you. You probably thought I was here for the school boards. I am here to request some funding for the Southern Iowa Economic Development Authority, which was created in statute in 1999 and encompasses 10 counties in Southern Iowa and is designed to deal with soil erosion, water resource degradation, road stabilization, in those counties. And it's a partnership effort in which they work together along with the state agencies to provide resources to reduce nutrient runoff, to stabilize eroding stream banks and halt gully formation, to reduce infrastructure costs for county roads that occurs because of some of the erosion that happens, and to provide flood control. They used to receive a $300,000 annual appropriation that ceased in fiscal year 2012. And this year is the last year in which they have funds remaining that are all obligated. And after that, they will be putting off projects that are primarily designed to protect Rathlin Lake, which is the drinking water source for most of that region, and to continue their work. That $300,000 request is small, but when it's leveraged with a 50% match by those 10 counties and then their project partners like the DOT, DNR, the Corps of Engineers, NRCS, and IDOLS will actually provide over $1 million worth of funds to continue on with some of these very critical projects. So I encourage you to consider restoring that appropriation and helping us continue to protect the watershed and the drinking water source in southern Iowa. If I can just very quickly, from the School Board Association standpoint, as you put together what you look at your budget and the new money that you're going to put toward K through 12 education, and we certainly appreciate everything that you have done for us in the past several years. It's been well received, and we're very happy with the funding that we've gotten. I encourage you to take a look at 3 things in that total package. Number 1, the SSA rate. Number 2, increasing by $5 the district cost per pupil equity, and increasing the transportation equity payment, and packaging that together as 3 things within that broader category. We think that putting those 3 things together is what really will provide the path forward for our districts. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. My name is Dave Duncan, CEO of the Iowa Communications Alliance. We represent the broadband providers throughout the state of Iowa that are locally owned and operated and dedicated to serving rural Iowans with broadband. So I'll start by saying thank you for the $1.3 million appropriation in the RIF fund for the broadband grant program. And I'm here today to ask for some more money in that program or elsewhere as we move forward. As you may know, broadband internet service through fiber optics is the infrastructure of the future. And our mission is to connect every single Iowan with robust and affordable broadband service. And our companies, the ICA member companies, have already connected over 302 rural towns and communities, not only people who live inside of town, but outside of town as well, with fiber optic networks, fiber to the home. And in fact, if engineered properly, the fiber optic networks can also provide gigabit service. And our members offer gigabit service to over 180 communities in Iowa. So even though we have stories like that, and even though we've been named as the #1 connected state in the country, we haven't connected everybody yet. And so we need to figure out a way to reduce the financial implications of trying to serve those consumers who live in less densely populated areas. So 1.3 million, that was a great start, and we thank you for that. But I encourage you to look forward to some sort of a sustainable and increased funding level. That will open the door for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it will, if you increase that grant program, it will open up an opportunity for those customers who may be in areas that never otherwise would have been able to get the service. And the second benefit, too, is that it might also open up the door to consumers in certain areas who maybe were on future plans for some companies to provide service at some distant point in the future, and it may be able to speed that up substantially and get those consumers served earlier. So we look north. We look at Minnesota. Minnesota has a broadband grant program. Over the past several years, they've awarded anywhere between $10 million and $35 million. Wisconsin, they started small at $1 million, but now they're up to $14 million a year. And they do it in 2 phases. The last phase was just in September. They distributed the $7 million amongst 37 different grant recipients to serve 14,000 residential locations and 1,100 business locations. So a little money can go a long way. And we urge you to take a look at that here in Iowa. As a general rule of thumb, a fiber optic cable is about $10,000 to $20,000 per mile to deploy, or between $3,000 and $10,000 per household. So it is expensive, but that is the future proofing of the network. So we encourage you, the governor, to consider increasing the funding to $10 million or maybe even $15 million this year to kind of match our counterparts from the north. Notable is the fact that the broadband grant program funds only up to 15% of a project build out. So if it's a 15% match, and if we had 15 million in allocation to the broadband grant funding, that would spur $100 million in broadband investment throughout the state. So it really leverages a lot of private dollars. And that would make a world of difference to every single one of the consumers who end up getting connected and can partake in the digital economy. So the ICA members, we're looking forward to continuing to work with you. We look forward to working on the Empower Rural Iowa initiative. We thank you for your support of rural broadband, and we'd be available for any questions.
Good afternoon, Governor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Alan Kemp, the Executive Director for the Iowa League of Cities. The Iowa League of Cities is the statewide association that serves as the unified voice, providing advocacy, training, and guidance to cities in Iowa. Cities in Iowa vary greatly by size, characteristics, and demographics. They range from just 15 citizens to over 200,000. But all are governed by elected officials who give up their time to serve their community. This great variation makes local control very important. As a former county treasurer, you know local officials need the ability to address the issues their constituents bring to them in a timely manner without waiting for the legislature to convene in January. City budgets are all based on the needs and the desires of those communities. But they include public safety, infrastructure, and quality of life priorities. Cities are also the economic engines of the state. We are often the leaders and always a partner in economic development throughout the state. Local policies and tools serve to promote local investment and job creation in our communities. I'm here today to emphasize just how important financial stability is to cities and to urge you your proposed budget continue to fully fund the commercial and industrial property tax replacement claims known as the backfill, which is when it's submitted in your budget in January. Your office has consistently met this obligation, and our members respectfully ask that you continue to do so. In a bipartisan fashion, it was understood and agreed in 2013 when Senate File 295 passed that replacing a portion of the lost revenues to local governments was the responsible thing to do, and that's still true today. The backfill is not a big city or a small city issue, it's an all-city issue. The backfill commitment currently reimburses local governments for a portion of the lost revenues. Abandoning or reducing that commitment will strain city budgets across the state, and community leaders will be forced to make tough choices. And those choices will vary from community to community, but in most cases, cities are either going to have to decide between reducing a service or increasing property taxes. Cities are so responsible for public safety, economic development, community development, drinking water, and a host of other services. These local services are relied upon and are used daily and make our communities and states strong and successful. I'll leave you with just 3 facts. The amount of the appropriation for the backfill is capped, but the negative impacts to cities resulting from Senate File 295 will continue to grow. Projections are that by 2024, there will be a $140 million gap between the industrial property values and the backfill payments to cities. The backfill commitment was a bipartisan compromise to reduce property taxes while ensuring that cities were able to provide services to their citizens. It was a standing appropriation that was not intended to sunset. There are 942 cities in Iowa, and 682 of those have lost population since 2010. We believe your Empower Iowa initiative is essential, and we strongly believe that maintaining the backfill commitment is an important component of that for all cities. So in closing, my members respectfully urge you to continue to fund the backfill in your 2019 budget. Thank you very much.